Yes, I've seen the commissioning plaque. The Tianjin-class assault ships were designed to enforce the Colonial Protection Act. The first came off the lines in '93. In theory, we can patrol independently. A Marine battalion and a dropship squadron can handle any problem on the ground. And we've got Park's fabricators. We can make whatever ammo, parts, and weapons we need. The old Conestoga and Bougainville transports had to restock at logistical flotillas. If the UPP gets restless, things change. Endeavor's a transport. We've got kinetics and nukes for planetary bombardment, and enough Dews and ASATs to roast pirates and mercs. But a real warship or a squadron of strike bombers would shred this beast into confetti.
Been looking for that banner. Should be hung up in the briefing room. Somebody must have got drunk and grabbed it. When I find out who, I'll feed their ass to a lion worm. Yo, listen up. I ain't gonna quiz your knowledge. If you got through boot, you know it. 101 years ago, they renamed the USMC the Colonial Marines. For a long-ass while, we operated as a U.S. national service under United America's Allied Command. After the Colonial Protection Act, they got serious about force integration, renamed us the United America's Colonial Marines, stepped up recruitment outside North America. Our mission's the same, the interstellar force and readiness, solving the operational and logistical challenges of assaulting and securing an unfriendly and potentially uninhabitable planetoid with only upwell support. You got it?
Oh, thanks. I got distracted and left that out. I'll grab it later. Fulminium's a metamaterial, engineered in a lab for some specific combination of durability, friction, thermal tolerance, whatever. It's copyright and trademark of Armat battlefield systems, using their weapons along with a bunch of other materials, plastics, more conventional alloy powders. All that gets fed into Endeavor's fabricators. I load up a blueprint on the computer, press print, and in minutes you have a new weapon. Never fired, just for you. Nice, huh? For 200 years, the Corps has been trying to get our logistics to this point. Anything you want, I can make on demand for materials and bulk storage. Weapons, ammunition, maintenance parts, chow hall trays, anime figurines, whatever. You got a scan of Katanga's black box? Nice! Look at that thing. It's what, 80 years old? These big refineries were supposed to be the future. Park them in orbit, fill them up, then tow them home while it all gets processed en route. They were made to mine metallic asteroids. Let me scan the logs real quick. In the early 70s, Seegson refit Katanga to crack ice. They'd haul a berg into the top of the Kasi Tower, and the works ground it down into water and byproducts. All that got piped over to Boshu Tower, the water got purified, and they split it into hydrogen and oxygen. You get life support and ship propellant. Huh. Entries stop in 2177. The last ones are about receiving evacuees and then some kind of exterior override. Weird.
Marine, I heard you got scans of a facehugger. Let me see. A well-preserved specimen. I'm going to pass this to Esther for analysis. We have a lot to learn about Xenomorph XX-121's life cycle. Ovomorphs, eggs, and the facehuggers that hatch from them are easy to contain and study. Once the parasitic phase ends in a chest burster, it gets hard. Adult forms are hostile. Acid blood melts autopsy equipment. Studies are complicated by the DNA reflex. The host parasitized by a xenomorph changes the morphology and behavior of the adult form. Runner and prowler morphs breed from quadruped pack and herd animals, dogs, cattle. Drones and warriors, they come from humans. That's why civilians mistake them for the real form of Xenos. In reality, we've got no idea what the original form of Xenomorph XX-121 was.
What'd you find? Colonial indenture contract. Oh, those are fun. From Seegson, dated 2175. So, look, people in the Corps want to move out to the colonies, right? Maybe there ain't jobs. Maybe they're dreamers, so they signed with a megacorp. A company pays for passage, then they work for X years. That's how people get stuck out here. Most end up in the Outer Rim, places settled enough to vote, have schools and mail, regular cargo and passenger shipping. And some get sent to the frontier. Everything between the Outer Rim and wherever the furthest surveyor is. Those are just outposts. Rough and ugly. Terraformers, mine shafts, and prefab shacks. These days, the Outer Rim's 100 light years from Earth, give or take. Last 20 years, the companies have set stakes farther and farther out. You found an issue of Ion Seegson? Dang. The company hasn't published that for like 30 years. A century ago, Seegson was real big, one of the interstellar corporations. They put their money into deep space platforms, O'Neill colonies, asteroid refineries, you name it. Then Weyland-Yutani made a bunch of breakthroughs in terraforming. Turning a planet habitable got a lot cheaper than assembling 1 million tons of orbital steel. By the 2140s, Seegson was on their way down. These days, they make cheap knockoffs of other people's stuff, like those working Joe synths. I heard in the 70s they tried to colonize some planets in the mid-rim. Wonder what happened with that.
I hope you did not ingest that. It is an internal lubricant used by synthetics like myself. Artificial people, if you prefer. Or simply androids. We are designed to mimic human form and behavior, and can perform many tasks, often ones that humans find upsetting, unethical, or physically uncomfortable. In the previous century, there were cases where synthetics became unstable. The initial solution was to make our minds less complex. Since the 2160s, synthetics are constrained by hard-coded laws governing acceptable behavior towards humans. The Colonial Marines employ synthetics in various roles. The Integer series are low-sapient combat models. Perhaps you've deployed with our platoons Alpha and Beta? High-functioning bishops and esters operate support equipment, analyze scientific anomalies, and provide medical care. That is a Seegson maintenance jack, a standard accessory included with each sale of Working Joe synthetics. The Working Joe was a class of low-sapient android popular last century. They were, if you will pardon my saying, an unsophisticated design. Synthetics from Weyland-Yutani and Hyperdyne systems served the high-end market. Seegson Company had neither the technical nor industrial expertise to compete. Working Joes were assembled from inexpensive commercial electronics. In a time when disguised synthetics were misused to monitor or discipline human employees, Seegson marketed with the slogan, "You always know a Working Joe." Their crude appearance was a selling point among those fearful of synthetic infiltration.
Dr. Honoka's ID. May I have a copy of your scan? Corporate badges contain employee personnel files. Likely nothing we didn't already know, but it's best to be thorough. Timothy Honoka was born in New York City. Interesting. Most born on Earth stay there. His family was reasonably well off, though he's paying rather exorbitant educational loans. He earned a doctorate in xenoanthropology from Wayland University, Mars campus, a controversial program. There have never been any alien cultures to study. Courses mix terrestrial archaeology with studies in exoplanetary sciences. One must understand the dirt one digs in, I suppose. This is interesting. According to Weyland-Yutani's own files, Dr. Honoka is presently cataloging the contents of a warehouse on Alexandria. It's likely we're the only ones who know his true location.
You scanned the manifest near the Wayland ship? May I? It details a series of two-way flights. On trips from LV-895 to Katanga, creatures from the moon were the cargo. On returns, the items were cryogenic suspension pod, loaded. Live ovomorph sample, 4. It is curious these pods are of uniform manufacture, not a field modification or expedient improvisation. They appear to be the result of an extended design process by experts in hypersleep technology. And they were designed for one specific cargo, Xenomorph eggs. These devices were mass-produced, not for palestation but for general use. Weyland-Yutani might have many eggs in transit or storage across the frontier.
I hate our squadron name. When I flew interceptors, the squadrons had decent names. Predators, gunslingers. Cracked Rooks is like, oh, I dropped my chess set. The UD-9C carries enough ordnance to take out a town, and it'll keep flying with half its ass blown off. But a Condor's not going to survive turns and burns against a real interceptor. In Atmo, all it can do is go in one direction real fast. Your best defense against Op-4 air superiority is to punch the throttle to the firewall, crank the ECM, and kiss your ass goodbye. Zero G's marginally better. The RCT blocks are placed wider than the old Cheyennes and Mohawks. Maneuvers real tight. I bet I could fly this piece of crap through any shipwreck you want without nicking the paint.
All the shit Weyland-Yutani makes. Aspen beer is about the only good thing. Wasn't always that way. Back 100 years plus, when Peter Weyland was still kicking the company, did terraforming and exploration. They invented synthetics. Future of humanity. Mierda. Building better worlds wasn't just something on coffee mugs. He actually meant that shit. After Weyland died, the managers took over. Every year the budget for shit that made lives better went down, and the budget for shit that kills went up. Why make a trillion in 2 decades when they can make $1 billion next quarter? Yeah, I heard about that. Benoist Henderson Station was a fuel depot at Kappa Reticuli. Weyland-Yutani says Hyperdyne mercenaries sabotaged it. Hyperdyne says one of Weyland's own bioweapons got loose. You figure that out. Either way, the depot blew up. 1,000 civilians died, food shipments got delayed for months. Shit like that, why they passed the Colonial Protection Act in '87. After the Frontier War, everybody wised up to how far the megacorps had gone. The further from Earth they moved, the more they figured they could ignore governments and act like them in their own selves. Hire private armies and send them at each other. The CPA authorized the expansion of the Corps. Now, we come out here, patrol, and make sure the companies are playing nice, following the law, paying their taxes, and leaving the little people out of their bosta.
That headgear is traditional for Weyland-Yutani interface pilots, going back to the deep-range exocolony missions a century ago. I'm going to assume the synth pilot wasn't wearing it. Personally, I wouldn't get near the cockpit of those things. Dropships can't maneuver for shit, but those Weyland shuttles are just fancy bricks. All you can do is aim them at the ground and hope the retros stop you before you bounce off. You know they weren't even designed for what they do? Sanriku Heavy Industries markets the D-Series light-duty interface craft as an SSTO with re-entry capability, but the original model was designed to work purely in Atmo, using ground effect. Did it stop them from selling it as a shuttle? Of course not. Sanriku is a division of Weyland-Yutani after all.
I have seen this headgear in your combat recordings. It is worn by Weyland-Yutani's security synthetics. Human form androids are used for many applications, from administration to combat. Personal and corporate security are historically among the most popular fields. One of the earliest mass-produced security models was Weyland-Yutani's Davis, from the late 2130s. Security synthetics often possess limited and inflexible intellects. Strict adherence to orders makes them preferable for riot control and strike-breaking. They cannot sympathize with those they are deployed against. Weyland-Yutani used many security synthetics at Palace Station. Perhaps this was because xenomorphs do not perceive synthetics as a threat or potential host. Unless attacked, they ignore androids.
General Vaughn, huh? She got added to the knowledge after the Frontier War. Hey, we gotta remember our mistakes as much as our success. If we don't, the shit repeats. Vaughn was Assistant Commandant of the Corps. Nobody paid attention to how close she was with Weyland-Yutani's board. She and a bunch of those cabals put their heads together, figuring on provoking a war between us and the Union of Progressive Peoples. Company wanted to make a bunch of money on defense contracts. Vaughn wanted herself a real war. Gloves off, no rules of engagement, real killer shit. Thought we was playing too nice. They almost made it happen. They dropped bioweapons on planets from both sides and framed the Op-4, even planned an attack on our own high command using a captured Proggy ship.
You pulled data off a company tablet. Excellent. Allow us to decrypt. It contained an InfoSec bulletin to employees. Unsecured electronic records may be cracked by the Colonial Marines' intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance service. We applaud their foresight. Commissars formed after the Frontier War. With the passage of the Colonial Protection Act, we provided oversight to eliminate corporate influence on the Colonial Marines. Over time, our mandate expanded to most intelligence tasks. Strategically, we enjoy all the sources you'd expect, from cyber warfare backdoors to interstellar keyhole probes. Tactically, we supervise Marine sniper and recon teams. Frontline Marines often mistrust Commissar's motivation, which is regrettable. We all serve in our own ways. Oh, your family is doing quite well, by the way. I thought you'd want to know.
May I examine your scan of Cynthia's server hardware? She was a curious variation of the mother computer concept. Mother systems have existed since the early period of exocolonization. They are immobile, mainframe-based artificial intelligences that regulate all systems on a spacecraft. The premier example is Weyland-Yutani's Mother series, which lent their name to all AIs of the type. Competing brands include Seegson's Apollo and Hyperdyne's Proxy. Compared to synthetics, mother systems are many times more intelligent and capable. However, they have rudimentary socialization programming. You would find them cold and uncommunicative, while a human crew travels in hypersleep. A ship's mother system works with a synthetic partner like myself to maintain the vessel.
Dr. Honeka's non-disclosure agreement. Interesting. Weyland-Yutani didn't name the facility he was assigned to. There's nothing about Pala Station or his specific duties. Its liabilities and penalties, all work belongs to the company, and so on. The closest they get to describing Pala Station's experiments on xenomorphs is a mention of hazardous conditions. Given the nature of your duties, you hereby forfeit any right to workplace injury compensation. It's interesting that Dr. Honeka was unaware of Site 2, the xenoarchaeological ruins the company acquired pathogen from, two completely isolated task cells, each unaware of what the other was working on, or even of the other team's presence. Excellent operational security. You scanned a badge for Cynthia Rodriguez. May I have a copy? Corporate IDs contain a personnel file. We know Rodriguez was a cover identity for a synthetic controlled by Pala Station's mother computer, Cynthia. Her employee of record is a cover story crafted by Weyland-Yutani's IT division. It claims Rodriguez served in the Colonial Marines and achieved the rank of colonel. Checking. Records in our own systems corroborate. I'm getting a full service record. Scans of handwritten commendations from her notional superiors. Even fitness reports. This is very thorough forgery. We're impressed. To inject false records into personnel command databases, the Rodriguez cover identity must have been initially crafted before the Frontier War. Weyland-Yutani no longer has such access.
That's one of the jars pathogen comes in. You don't seem affected. I'll assume it was empty when you found it. In each one of those jars, there's 4 ampules of pathogen, packed in some kind of preservative slime. Or maybe it's for shock absorption. Just a drop of pathogen by injection or ingestion can cause mutations. There were signs it could be aerosolized and inhaled, too. You'd see effects in seconds. The Pala Station team didn't know where the company got it. It's crazy advanced genetic engineering, biological nanotechnology. Beyond anything they'd ever seen. Beyond theories, even. Now we know it came from those 4,000-year-old ruins. Which means whoever made those ruins probably made pathogen. You found that in the ruins? Now, one of the Weyland-Yutani team must have brought it. Guess they had a sense of irony. Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway disappeared on the Prometheus mission over a century ago. They were archaeologists who thought human development was influenced or directed by aliens from space. Real crackpot stuff, right? I mean, you have to wonder why Peter Weyland bankrolled their expedition. Anyways, after Prometheus disappeared, their academic papers were taken out of publication. They're a cautionary tale in my field.
Oh shit, somebody left a laptop dirt site? I'll get it picked up. That's got our full TO&E on it. The UPP would kill for that. The 40th MEU was one of the units organized after the Colonial Protection Act, under 10 years old, so they don't got much intel on us. But they know about the Endeavor, of course. Assault ships are too big to hide. But they wouldn't know she's carrying 2nd Battalion, 33rd Regiment, 11th Division, 729 Colonial Marines, 18 low-safe combat androids, and 1 support synthetic. And they wouldn't know our dropship squadrons, the cracked Rooks. VMM 2181 if we're talking to LT Co. She hates that squadron name.
Wow. That's genuine alien technology. You can touch it. It's real. This is a helmet from one of the ruin builders, right? What did Weyland-Yutani call them? Engineers. Okay. From the suits and the statues, we can tell the engineers were biped and humanoid. Hands with fingers. A head with sensory organs. A lot like Earth life. Very human. But 3 meters tall. Giants. Look at the interior of that helmet. It looks like blood vessels. Glands? That isn't mechanical, not entirely. It's biotechnology. I wonder if all engineer equipment is like this. I can't believe you found one of those intact. See the black veining? Yeah, that's distinctive to mutation caused by pathogen exposure. Yeah, I can't guess what this creature used to be. Maybe something native to LV-895, maybe one of the rats from Paulus Station. Pathogen messes with the DNA in animal life forms, leaves plants and fungus alone. It's like it puts genetic code through a blender, and they come out enhanced physically, faster, stronger, more durable. The downside is mental development seems to atrophy or get reset. Mutants can problem solve, but a human we saw affected, it didn't recognize anyone. It just ate. Anything mutated by pathogen comes out pure aggression. Like they take survival of the fittest as a personal dare. That must have been made by a member of the Weyland-Yutani team studying the ruins on LV-895. They're strange. The outermost you could mistake for something built by humans. Big slab stone construction. The only weird parts are the doors. The second section has the heads and statues. That's not stone. It looks like it, but samples show woven helical structures. Rigid collagens, aragonite, biopolymers. Bone. Genetically engineered, stronger than steel. Finally, there's the section of carbonized metal, the deepest and most advanced bits. Encased behind the metal are biological systems, nerves, and organs. I don't know what to make of it. It's like there's 2 or 3 different cultures, different technology levels. But there's a set of characters in all 3 sections. They translate something like, those who birth and kill. Esther says creator-destroyers is probably closer idiomatically. Oh shit. Sorry, that's from one of the mutated Leon 895s. The things Herrera called stalkers. Leons were one of the species Paulus Station tested pathogen on. Mark Pryor's pet project. They're native to LV-895. They're cats with chameleon skin and 6 legs. I guess that's hard to see in the mutants. 2 of the legs turn into stabby things, and their heads split into tentacles. Pathogen amps up the Leon's color-changing ability. The mutation allows them to show multiple colors and blend almost instantly. 2 pathogen Leons got loose on Paulus Station. A lot of people died. Funny thing, I ended up killing them both. Seeing this, it still freaks me out.
The synths used a flute to start up the alien ship? A flute. Alright, fine. Makes as much sense as a 4,000-year-old ship with nerves and organs. I can't even tell what direction it's supposed to fly in. Maybe it doesn't matter. The public address was talking about paragravity drive. We have artificial gravity, right? Scale up that tech, perfect it. You can use it to counter gravity, float over a planet like you're in 0G, or project a gravity well in front of your ship and just fall into it. If the engineers who made those ruins have that kind of technology, I don't know how we'd fight them. Say one of those shows up over Earth, loaded with pathogen. How do we fight something that could throw a singularity at us?
Holy crap, you scanned a GEOS datapad? I haven't seen one of those since I signed up. They're a local brand on Gateway Station. Tower 6, level 33. They'd acquire parts from big companies, closeouts, auctions, and assemble them into gear the megacorporations would charge twice as much for. Somebody on Wayland's staff must be my neighbor. I'm from Gateway, born and raised. It's a primary orbital port for the United Americas built in 2030. We hold geosync over Quito, Ecuador, but we're an independent territory. 30,000 permanent residents, our own rep in the UA Assembly, and our own custom laws.
You scanned a xenomorph organ? Show me your data. Acid spray gland. Relatively intact. I'll give this a good review later. Spitters are interesting. Most forms of xenomorph charge and attack with claws and striking teeth. These things deliberately keep their distance. They have claws and teeth, and they'll use them if you're stupid enough to get close. Mostly they spray acid, like terrestrial oog-peaster beetles or spitting cobras. I've seen reports of ranges up to 25 meters. I'm damn curious to know what these things breed out of. We've seen spitters before, but not often. And this head shape is unique. They must come from something native to LV-895.
A UA Centennial poster. Guess somebody on Wayland's refit crew was a patriot. My abuela said our great-grandfather hated the United Americas, an alliance of every nation in South, Central, and North America, plus most of the Caribbean. He prayed failed every night at dinner. Said it'd be the end of Cuba's own culture. I wonder if we'll even celebrate the centennial. News from the Corps says negotiations with the Three-World Empire are going well. I mean, there'll be treaties tying us together as the United Systems. And the Proggies ain't gonna like that. The UPP sees everything as a threat.
Somebody left a case on the Katanga perimeter? No worries, I'll fab up a replacement when we need it. Personally, I prefer Wayland equipment. Lightweight and the ballistic software updates itself when you hit port. But most Marines swear by Armat battlefield systems. The gear's heavy and durable, lots of metals. Designs focus on reliability and stopping power. The joke is, you bomb an Armat weapon, bury it for 6 months, then knock the dirt out, and it works. As a logistics professional, I'm gonna tell you that's BS. But it's true an Armat gun can take a beating. Between you and me, I think most Marines like Armat because they're the only major defense contractor in the United Americas. Pure jingoism. But hey, that's just me. I'm from Gateway Station. We don't play dirt politics.
Marine, I heard you found damaged armor aboard Katanga. Huh. That didn't just get sprayed with acid. It got soaked in a puddle. Probably from the corpse of a burster. There's a rich history of poisonous critters on Earth. Dart frogs, rough-skinned newts, the blue-ringed octopus. If a predator takes a bite, they die. Xenobursters take you don't dare kill it to a new level. Subcutaneous, high-pressure acid bladders that burst on death. It's a perfect example of Xenomorph's survival strategy. Doesn't matter if an individual dies, so long as the hive continues. When a burster's killed, it harms the hive's enemies, so they charge in, suicidally close. This is a morph we haven't seen before. It must come out of some species native to LV-895. I can't wait to see what that is.
Ah, a corporate intelligence report. Recent border activity by the Union of Progressive Peoples, a subject of concern to Commissars as well. The UPP has been a rival of the United Americas and our nominal allies in the Three-World Empire for much of the last century. There are frequent confrontations with the UPP's space operating forces. Things were more contained before the Hyades revolts of the 50s and 60s. Lack of attention to corporate abuses in the colonies drove many to embrace the UPP's anti-capitalist sentiments. To summarize the current balance of power, we enjoy the most robust industry. Our 3WE allies possess the finest technology, but the UPP has the largest population base. Most Marines refer to UPP forces as proggies. They often call us corporatists.
Somebody printed a Hyperdyne Systems weapon brochure. On paper. Hyperdyne's whole damn business is based on virtual sales. They don't manufacture anything. They sell licenses for fabrication blueprints and ballistic software. When you order, they send a bunch of files over Hyperpulse. You load them into your own fabricator and hit print. Look, I know Hyperdyne is technically the enemy. They design small arms for the Union of Progressive Peoples. But they know how to run a business. Few colonies in the Hyades had heavy industry, and they were short on freighters. But every outpost had general-purpose commercial fabricators. Hyperdyne knows where the wind's blowing. That's how they survived as a UPP state enterprise when other Hyades megacorps got nationalized.
Oof. Does that smell you, Marine? You must have run into xenoshedding. You get a scan? Look at that. Not from a chest burster. It's way too big. Has to be from a Praetorian. When a xenohive gets big, around 300 individuals, the queen secretes royal jelly. They feed it to adult drones, and it triggers a second-stage metamorphosis. I don't think we know what that process looks like. Maybe they spin a cocoon. I'd love to know. Anyway, what comes out is a Praetorian, nearly as large as a queen. Mean as hell. They've got a head plate that's nearly impenetrable. They use it as a shield and for ramming attacks. Praetorians guard the queen and the deepest levels of the nest. They don't leave often. Good data, but you might want to hit the showers.
You found old dog tags on Katanga. Shit. Rumor control. This don't go beyond you and me. Comprendo? The Corporal Olivia ship who owned these dog tags, that's our colonel. Some 20 years back, her unit responded to a Xeno outbreak at a Seegson colony. The survivors evac to an orbital refinery, Katanga, but the bugs came with. Shit went bad. A civilian with a grudge took control of the refinery. The rescue dropships got wasted, and ship had to leave survivors through the station to the hangars. A lot of people got killed, civvies and ship's team. The bad guy herded them into Xeno ambushes, ground them up in the works. Now, ship don't talk about how it ended, even with me. And I served 2 tours with her now, so don't you go asking her nothing.
What did you find over there? Parliamentary solicit... This has to be from the Three-World Empire. Whoever Weyland-Yutani had running security on Katanga must have been lining up their next contract. The 3WE has a smaller military than they need. Every year, the Solar Parliament says they're going to expand recruitment. Every year, it gets tied up in committees. And every year, they end up paying twice as much for private military contractors from Weyland-Yutani. They love bureaucracy over there. You blend the UK, Japan, and Europe, mix in technocrats from Titan and executives from Mars. About all they have in common is love of paperwork.